Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. How you guys doing tonight? Let me fix this damn microphone. Hey man, I just finished rewatching Spence and Crawford. And I'm probably going to do 100 more videos, right? But well, paying attention to it, I was trying to see from starting at the first round, right? What was going wrong for Errol Spence? And I'm going to tell you right now, I rewatched the fight. Now, there are people, and this is the thing when you're creating content, and you create multiple videos. Like for me, I have a lot of videos out here. But people will go out there, and 90% of people who come to these videos, I'd say probably more like 70%, they don't even watch the video. They just read the title and they go and comment. And that's scary for me, all right? I'm gonna get to what I'm gonna talk about boxing-wise, but it's just like a person saying, if you wanna hide something from somebody, put it in a book, because more than likely, blank, 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 they're not gonna read the book anyway. And to anyone who's still watching this video, I tell you, at least on my channel, take time, watch the whole video, hopefully, or skip through it, or whatever you need to do. But don't just come and comment, all right? Because you really make yourself look foolish. That being said, I watched the fight again. Now, there are a lot of people who've come on my channel. I get a lot of support, but there are some people who don't watch a whole video. Now, when I was saying Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is a 50-50 fight, listen, hey, don't take my word for anything. Look at what guys like De La Hoya said, Mosley said, Roy Jones said, Tarver said, Teddy Atlas said, Mike Tyson, everyone, right? Even though they may favor somebody, right? Because that's what happened in this fight with Crawford and Spence. Everyone had someone they favored, but they said it's a 50-50 fight, right? I said the same thing. Crawford and Spence are the two number ones battling for undisputed. Whoever wins becomes undisputed. The loser becomes number one. Simple, stays number one. Because I just don't think there's anyone out there at 147 who can beat a Spence and Crawford. Now we see Spence is really, obviously, some issues with cutting the weight. Maybe, right? Maybe. So it's kind of hard to say how Spence would fare if he had to make 147 again. But that's neither here nor there. Bottom line is, the first round of the fight, I watched that first round. And let me tell you something. At the end of that first round, I was left saying that first round is why we said Spence and Crawford is a 50-50 fight. Because it just depends on how you want to score it. I gave Spence that first round because he was more active, but Crawford showed signs of what was to come in the subsequent rounds. Okay? So anyone out here saying that the ex-pro boxers, active pro boxers, boxing analysts, and myself, right, were wrong. The fight was nowhere near 50-50. It was a 90-10, 100% 0, 80-20. To that, I say, in the most respectful manner, that I kindly request that you hold your horses and not take it to the stupid. That fight was 50-50, okay? So the first round showed that fight was 50-50. Now, this is the thing. As the fight progresses, you now see who is able to make changes or who is going to make mistakes. But you're going to see, right, that it's a chess match. And what was a 50-50 battle, round by round, it changes depending on what the fighters are able to do or are not able to do round by round. Okay? Second round, Errol Spence and Crawford going at it. Spence is having another round where he's foot on the gas. Crawford's starting to counter him. Spence is reaching, overextending. But there's something I noticed that second round, right? That Crawford jab. Yo, he threw it in that first round. But let me tell you something. I know for a fact, right? That's why I want to see the epilogue. But from what I heard from Derek James, he never, ever talked about Terence Crawford's jab. Now, for those of you who are saying, hey man, why are you talking about his jab? I'm going to tell you something, right? Now, like yourself, I like to pull from some of my own experience. I never fought on this level at all. I never even fought as a pro. I had some amateur fights, and but I was a guy who stayed in the gym a lot. I trained a lot. I sparred a lot. Being in the military, moving around, boxing was something that I loved. My thing was lifting weights, playing basketball, and boxing. But I was in the gym. I trained a lot. I sparred a lot, man, all over the world. So sometimes you got those guys who they just love a sport, but they're not necessarily trying to go out there and compete, or they're not able to. With me in my situation, that's just what I enjoy doing, man. I like cutting weight. I like running, jogging. I like being ripped, but I also like looking nice too. So I push my little weights. But let me tell you something. When I used to train, I was right-handed, and I'm gonna give you a story, right? I was right-handed, but I was just comfortable as a southpaw. I was never comfortable in the orthodox stance. But let me tell you something. I'm being right-handed, and when I used to throw that jab, my jab and my hook, or that uppercut, but that jab, I'm telling you, I know what that does, because that's your power. The problem is, right, when your left hand, who's your weak hand, is your backhand, right? That's supposed to be the most powerful shot. That's straight right, straight left. But when that's your weak hand, like in my case, that was my weak hand. If something would have gone wrong with my right hand, I'd be up shit creek, basically. Unless you just have that freakish power like Terence Crawford. So what I noticed in the fight is Crawford wasn't throwing a type of jab to occupy Spence, to keep him busy. He wasn't throwing the kind of jab where it was to blind you, then come behind with a big power shot. The power shot of the night that was the go-to for Terence Crawford, that showed the first round he said it, but it started showing up in that second round, was that jab. Now, he wasn't throwing no regular jab. Remember, Crawford's right-handed. So this ties into what I was saying, if you're still with me on this video. Crawford is super, super heavy-handed with both left and right. When he was throwing that jab, if you watch him, he was pushing off of his legs. He has long legs and a long reach. And when he let that jab go, he was trying, you normally say snap the jab out. He was trying to punch through Errol Spence's face. Okay? And let me tell you, I watched the third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, the eighth round. And we say he took the eighth round off. I just finished watching. He ain't take that eighth round off. He could have finished him, but he eased up off the gas a little bit. But he didn't really take that whole eighth round off. I just went and watched the fight again. But I'm telling you, he was hitting Spence with the jab and buckling Spence. What kept Spence from going down, I don't know. From the jab. But let me tell you, I don't understand what Derek James wasn't able to make the adjustment. He was telling Spence about, stepping around and doing this, but they couldn't get beyond the jab. Now, for those of you, right, when we talk about the jab, and some are saying, well, what's the significance of the jab? Well, let me just tell you this, right? The jab is a quick punch. Starts from the chin, hits the target, that's in a direct line in front of the fighter. The jab Terence Crawford was throwing was basically like a straight right hand, straight left hand. That was no normal, typical quick punch just to set up your other shots. The jab was his power punch, power shot in this fight. Now, the jab is the most common and frequently used punch in a boxing match. The jab is delivered with the lead hand. In this case, Crawford's lead hand. He's naturally right-handed, and he was letting it go with bad intentions. It serves multiple purposes in the ring, including acting as a rangefinder. You notice in that fight that he would get that right arm out. If he jabbed or if he threw a shot, he would use that right arm to kind of create distance, to push Spence down, to get him out of position. Crawford was doing a lot of things with that lead hand. He used it as a deterrent as well and a weapon of offense and defense. The jab takes very little to no energy to throw, normally. But the thing about this is Crawford was using the type of energy that you take to throw. A powerful backhand left, backhand right. He was using that kind of energy and effort and getting that power, generating that power from his legs to throw that jab, to punch through Spence. And that's why Crawford was hurting Spence with that jab, and Spence couldn't get away from it because Crawford has those freakishly long arms, and Spence just couldn't get out of range. The jab being the closest to the target, and it's usually the fastest shot to land. Now you understand, the fastest shot for Crawford to land in any fight is the jab, and the fastest shot for him to land against Spence, he was throwing that shot to knock him out. That's why he did not come out fighting in the orthodox stance. The whole thing with him was to work off of Crawford's power, being his dominant right hand. You saw in that fight, he hit him with the left, but the left, Spence didn't like it. But when he hit him with that damn jab, when he hit him with that counter right hand hook, when he hit him with those uppercuts to the body, the left hand hurt too because Crawford is just freakishly heavy-handed. But they knew coming into that fight to make sure they set the tone, and that's why they came just right off the rip in that southpaw stance. Extreme power coming off of that jab to control the fight and make sure Spence had to think twice. Extreme power coming off that counter right hand, southpaw to southpaw. The go-to punch is the hook, not the straight left, it's the hook. And those two shots are the shots that made Spence miserable. Now, this is something else I wanted to point out to you. As far as I've done videos, there's a lot of videos out there. So I'll do a video. I may say one thing in one video, then I'll come back and I'll have a conversation with you. Now, I'm not here to contradict anything that I've said. What I'm doing is I'm having a conversation with you, right? This is something that, what was I going to say? About the jab, about Spence. Oh. Damn, I lost my train of thought. Isn't that crazy? I told you, man, I be getting old. About the jab and Spence and, okay, I know what I was going to say. Now, there was the conversation that's going around right now is Errol Spence, the car accident, this whole thing about neurological issues. He should never be in the ring again. And with me watching him, the way he got beat, I personally think he has nothing to prove, right? We all know Errol Spence is great. But what I'll say is this. In that first round, Errol Spence looked great. Didn't look like there were any signs of neurological damage. He didn't look dehydrated, didn't look exhausted. He had the typical work rate of Errol Spence in the first round, and he was trying to implement his game plan, which for him is seek and destroy, break your will. Had a good outing in the first round. I had him winning that round, but it was pretty even. Second round, he had another pretty good outing, was getting touched up, got knocked down. Crawford threw the left, but it was the right hook that put him down, right? when he got hit with that right hook, and Spence got up, Spence kept trying to put the pressure on Crawford, but Crawford started hurting him bad. Okay, so Spence got hurt in that second round. Now the third round when Spence came out, Spence did not look dehydrated. He didn't look like he was suffering from any neurological damage. Spence came out and did what he said. You know, when I come to fight, when I get in the ring, I'm stepping. He came out in that third round stepping because his whole thing was getting that point back, right? And he was trying. The problem is, he was reaching, overextending, not getting his hands up, and he was in the line of fire. And Crawford was tattooing him, okay, with some hard shots. Now, after that third round, it was all downhill for Errol Spence, okay? But those first 3 rounds, I didn't see any signs of dehydration. I didn't see any signs of neurological damage. I didn't see any signs of any lingering effects from a car accident. Nothing that would make me think that. I did notice his face was starting to, I was like, man, is that blood on his face? But let me tell y'all something. Going into that 4th round, right? This is where I started to notice the swelling and everything else happening. And Crawford's jab just wasn't helping the situation. This is where things started to shift, and it was like, okay, there's really nothing he can do, in my opinion, because he wasn't able to really get out the way of shots and everything. But Crawford does this to everyone he fights. So they have a doctor out here. I'm sure you guys have already probably watched the video, who's made a couple I would say revealing statements about what he thinks happened, about what he sounds like, what he knows factually about the commission, the ringside physician, the guys who do the physicals, Errol Spence's team. He said some crazy stuff, but I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying for the stuff that he said, he better be speaking the truth, because I can see a lawsuit waiting for him. Come tomorrow, he wake up and boom, they're gonna hit him with some papers because he said some crazy stuff. But I didn't really see it. I didn't really see anything that would make me say up to that point. The car accident, his body is showing signs of the damage he incurred as a result of the car accident. But I'm going to tell you, when I did that video about the scar tissue, I do think, when you look at it, like think about it, before Crawford started touching him, he was looking okay. But when he started touching him, that's when Spence started to really unravel and stuff like that. But this is the thing. With Spence's condition, was he already like this? Because Crawford was hitting him with that hard jab, hook, through the left, beating him to the body a lot. I was watching that something else. Crawford was going to the body early in the fight. But my question is this, right? With Errol Spence, he had the car accident. After the car accident, right, he fought Danny Garcia. And then he was supposed to fight Pacquiao. That didn't work out. He had the retina issue. Then he fought Ugas. So Errol Spence had 2 fights since his car accident. He didn't really take much damage against Danny Garcia. Errol Spence, for the most part, overwhelmed Danny Garcia. So Garcia wasn't able to really have a consistent attack on Errol Spence to where we can see the swelling and the bruising and the bleeding, and maybe cause him to overthink things in the ring and make mistakes to where he unravels and has a meltdown. Okay, when he fought Ugas, we did see him get hurt against Ugas. Okay, and when he got hurt against Ugas, his body reacted the same way when Terence Crawford was hurting him. It kind of, take a step back and body kind of wave a little bit, like off balance. So my question is, was Spence always there if someone could sustain a consistent attack, was he always there to be knocked out or to have a meltdown or for his body to respond the way it responded when Terence Crawford was able to counter him and sustain a consistent attack? Because when you go back and look at Danny Garcia, you really couldn't see it. But with Ugas, there were some moments in that fight where you could kind of see if Ugas was able to pour it on or to throw more than one punch. Maybe Ugas could have gotten him out of there, right? Because that was a conversation at one point. So now we come here to what happened with Crawford and Spence. Spence has never had to really think and to respond and to make adjustments. And he had someone throwing a punch, which is the closest to him, and it's the fastest shot to land. And he had someone throwing that shot like a damn missile. Multiple times, round after round, and it was landing. So it's like Spence was getting hit with straight right hands the whole fight. And he's never had to endure that. So that being said, I think that we should be concerned about Spence because I just think it's just a lot of damage and wear and tear to his body from the car accident. But I also feel that if him going into a fight with anyone who can get to him, I can't see the outcome being any different. Now, that being said, going forward with Spence and Crawford in a rematch, let me tell y'all something. The jab is the go-to punch. You know who talked a lot about the jab? Vernon Forrest. You remember when Vernon Forrest fought Shane Mosley? He was telling everybody, use your jab, right? Everybody in boxing talks about the importance of the jab, setting everything up. But they don't talk about how important the jab can be when you have someone who's converted from orthodox to southpaw, and how important it can be to have them with that lead hand as a power hand and how much damage they can actually do if you don't recognize it and you're not able to make adjustments. Someone who we've seen who's had success in the southpaw stance who is not left-handed is Caleb. Put it to this way. Southpaw stance, what's his name? De La Hoya. So let me do this. Let's just say orthodox, right? Who's really left-handed is De La Hoya. De La Hoya, same thing. His power hand was his left hand. Crawford's power hand is right hand. Same situation. De La Hoya, his whole he made a career off of jab and hook. Simple. Miguel Cotto made a career off of jab and hook. Caleb Plant has had a lot of success and made a career off of jab and hook. But when you can't get, when that jab and hook isn't working, then you have problems because your right can't go to your right hand. And Caleb Plant Benavidez is a good example of that. Now we come here with a situation with Terence Crawford, and I just don't think there was a lot of focus from Errol Spence's team on what to do if Crawford turns southpaw and how to deal with his power hand being his jab and that being the closest to Errol Spence and the fastest shot to land and how to deal with that power. Because they already know Crawford's extremely heavy-handed and he has power in both hands. So going into the rematch, I don't think Errol Spence stands a chance. I don't care if they fight at 154 or 160. I just don't think Errol Spence stands a chance because, look, the best boxer doesn't win the fight. It's the fighter who boxes the best on that night or the boxer who fights the best on that night. Okay? So it doesn't matter if based on amateur accomplishments, professional accomplishments, the majority, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just having a conversation. It doesn't matter if the majority of people feel that Errol Spence is the better boxer, better fighter. What matters is on the night of the fight, whichever boxer fights the best. That's what matters. And what happened this Saturday is Terence Crawford was the boxer who fought the best. And he won. And the way he was able to do it was with that power jab. I'm telling you, if you go back and watch the fight, it's out there on YouTube. As soon as the fight's over, within like 5 minutes, like 10 channels had a damn fight posted. But it's out there. They even got one with just highlights. So they cut through the chase round after round. You watch Terence Crawford hitting Errol Spence. You remember when he hit Kell Brook and knocked him out? I would say Errol Spence's chin is a bit better than Kell Brook's because he was hitting Errol Spence with that power jab, and Errol Spence was buckling, almost dropping. But something kept him up. Something kept Errol Spence up towards the end of that fight. And I'm glad that referee finally stopped the fight. But that being said, as far as a rematch, Crawford and Spence, it makes no sense. I went and watched it to see, okay, at 154, what adjustment can Errol Spence make? Nothing. Because he can't get beyond that damn reach of Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford in the southpaw stance, he throws that right hand like a damn straight left, straight right. It's the kind of power he's getting off of that jab, and he's generating that power from his legs. I call it loading your legs. He's loading his legs and then pushing forward off of that back foot and getting all of that power starting from his legs generated and then ultimately being dispersed at the end of his jab. And that's why when he was hitting Errol Spence, he was making Errol Spence look bad. Let me move this out the way, and let me pull this out for you. Okay, let me move this out the way. You can just look here and see at the impact of that jab and what it was doing to Errol Spence. Okay, but that being said, man, Crawford Spence rematch. I don't know. I do feel Errol Spence needs to just stop. Because with this doctor coming out and the stuff he's saying, it has me even more concerned. Just seeing how his face was swelling up and just cutting up and bleeding. And he didn't really have an answer. And Derek James didn't really seem to know what to do. And I just have to say more to come on Errol Spence. Very interested to know in the next week, month, 6 months, year. Very interested to know what direction his health is going to take. I'm praying that Errol Spence is okay, but I just don't think he should come back and fight Terence Crawford in no rematch. I get it, the money. I get it, he has pride. I get it, what he posted about, hey, he's a grown man. He's not going to make an excuse, at least tell us. But I tell you what, if he's real with himself, he's just going to say, look, I just can't beat him. And it's okay. This is boxing. That doesn't make Errol Spence a duck. That doesn't make him a bum. You know what I'm saying? That's not the case. He just got in there with someone who's superior. But if they do fight at 154, I don't know how they're going to keep all the belts on the line, but I'm sure the secret society has their way to make sure if they do rematch at 154, that all the belts will be on the line. And they'll more than likely, in my opinion, be catering to Errol Spence. But I just think just like Errol Spence could be stronger and be a bit more fit because he doesn't have to dehydrate himself, well, Crawford will too. Okay? So I just think they should just leave Crawford alone. But I get it. You want to get out there. These guys are at a point in their careers where they fight and making 20, 30 million. I get it. Gonna go make you another 20, 30, but you can't enjoy that if your ass has brain damage or you end up, losing your life in the ring. Just not worth it to me. If I was his dad or mom, I'd be sitting there saying, look, just hang it up. You know what I'm saying? He has an interesting story. He can definitely go out there, man, and they'll have a movie made behind him. And I get it. You want to have the Cinderella Man story where he comes back after losing to Crawford and he beats Crawford and then now he's on top of the world. I just don't think that's the case with these two. I just think Crawford, no matter what, especially at 154, I just think suicide mission for Errol Spence. And I like Errol Spence. You know what I'm saying? But unless they can figure out how to get around that damn jab, they're going to have some problems with Terence Crawford. I'm just being real with you, man. Anyway, that being said, y'all keep cool. Fix my little images here. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. But that Crawford jab was the difference in the fight. And you go back and watch those highlights and you'll see what I'm talking about. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. All 7 continents. In the breeze.